Hey guys, had a little bit of an issue on the ATV page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the Facebook Live from my personal page and then I will share it on the ATV page. Unfortunately, there are glitches over there, but it seems like our personal pages work a lot quicker and better. So again, let me introduce myself. I am Trina Slade-Burks with ATB Fine Artists and Designers LLC. I am part owner along with my husband, and I'm here in not so sunny South Florida. It is raining outside. I usually host these luncheon lectures around our community, but this is a good opportunity to do a luncheon lecture tutorial with you guys at the luxury of your home, studio, or business where you can chime in. And I see people are commenting on the other page. They will see it later. It's basically to get people to understand who are artists, how to do different things to build their professional careers. So a friend of mine, and I'm going to shout her out, Susan Redmond, had been trying to get me to do webinars. So I'm not 100% comfortable doing live broadcasts, but I figure I could do a test run here and then start doing some webinars. We go around different parts of South Florida, so I have done this in Martin County. I've done it down in Broward. I've done it here in Palm Beach County. So great opportunity to meet people and give them insight on their art profession. So the topic for today is basically finding money for your art business. So a couple of people I want to thank, like I thank Suzanne. Also want to thank Rena Blades, which is with our county, Palm Beach County Cultural Council. And I also want to thank ArtServe. ArtServe is based out of Broward County, which is in Fort Lauderdale, and they help artists basically, forgive me because I'm going to be reading cheat notes over here. They build the fiber of their community through cultural awareness. So they help artists, they give awards out, they do a lot of innovative things in their community. And the fun thing about that is that they help us other South Florida counties. We can totally engage in some of the things that they do. So a couple of apologies ahead of time. First, I want to apologize because I'm going to be looking at the screen periodically, so I'm not going to always be looking at you guys. But don't think I'm ignoring you. Just understand that I got to read my notes. If you have any questions, I'll probably answer them verbally now, or if it's something that I have to look up or find out about, I'll type it in later. And those of you who are checking in with me, who are on my personal page, I will be posting this on the ATB page when it's done. And I apologize again. The fan pages are not working as well as our personal pages. So understand that. So let's get started. Okay, so first thing I want to say, and I found this out from ArtServe. So I took an artist entrepreneurship, and one of the things I realized is that whatever profession you're in, you always need a refresher. I go to different workshops, lectures, to get a little bit of insight, and it's not always about art, so, and I'm going to reiterate that later on in my talk. But ArtServe did a great job of explaining how to be an entrepreneur as an artist. Now, I've been teaching that for a very long time, so there were some new fill-ins that they were able to provide me. That's why I'm shouting them out and thanking them for what they do. One of the things they mentioned, and I want to say this and I want to be very clear, so don't get offended, artists. I want to mention that if you feel that you as an artist do not need to make money through your art, that you feel like you're selling out, then this is not the video for you. I would just say go watch a cat video or go back into your studio. This is not the video for you. You are not selling out learning this information. I think it only will help you and influence you and encourage you to do more for your business. And those of us who are artists know we're a little bit quirky, so understand that there are people around you that can help you with these also. Don't think you got to take all of this on yourself. So if you have notebook paper like I do, or you're a fast typer, type in the information. Again, I'm going to leave this up after so you can go back to it later. So first things first, one of the most important things about trying to make money as an artist for your art is that you need to have some key players alongside you. One is an accountant, the other one is an attorney, because there are going to be things that you don't necessarily need to be dealing with, but you need to have them at access for anything so you don't get ripped off. And so there's a good mutual agreement between you and your potential clients, you and your potential patrons, which we'll be talking about who those people are. All those important things that you need tied into a nice little bow to help your business. So, first things first, look around in your community. Do you have one of these in your community? Do you have an arts council? Do you have, okay, so what's an arts council, you're saying? So an arts council, and I'm going to read it thoroughly. It is a government or private nonprofit organization that basically their role in this is to help promote the arts, usually local or regional, but it's to award artists with awards, provide funding, organize events, those kind of things. So look around your community. Do you have one of those? We have a cultural council, which is a little bit different because, yes, they provide for artists, but they provide for a large percentage of our cultural community, which is like dance, theater, all kinds of unique things that bring culture to your community. So that's the difference. Arts councils deal mostly with arts and artists directly. Cultural councils deal more with the big, vast variety of the arts. So not just visual artists, but everything that goes alongside that. All right, so do you have one of those? Do you have an art advocate in your community that you can go and get feedback from? Find out information about your community. My husband and myself, we're art advocates. We go to all different kinds of programs and art events and provide information. Sometimes people will do workshops with us, just learning about what does it take for me to be the best artist I can be, and how can I get my work out there? How can I get money doing it? So I know a lot of you are checking in because you want to make money doing your art or get money for your art. So the other thing I would tell you to look into is something that's called procurement. So that is something that's an agreement with yourself and community leaders like your county or your city. You can actually bid for jobs through, let's say, yours, whatever city you're in or whatever county you're in. So we have a procurement program here in the city of West Palm Beach. And they work really well with different people. And basically it helps you, their role is to make things affordable to their clients. And our role is to get into those bidding games with some of the people and get an opportunity that many other people don't. So what they do is they host workshops on their own to help you find a way to become registered as part of their procurement program. So that's something to think about because there's not always going to be a grant out there, but there are jobs out there that you can grab that can help finance your art. So that's something you need to really think about. And I'll break some of the bad news to you about grants because everybody approaches us, how can I get a grant? How can I get a grant? But it's not easy, and there's some stipulations to grants, and I need for you guys to understand this. I'm family, so I'm going to tell you the truth, where a lot of other people can say, oh yeah, it's easy to get a grant. No, it's not. So those things, look into your community and see if you can find out about that. So again, an arts council of some caliber. You don't have to live here in Florida to know that there's an arts council somewhere in your city or in your county. Get an art advocate, somebody who's directly or indirectly connected to you, either a person you know personally or a referral from somebody else, somebody that can help you and guide you, kind of like a mentor. And the procurement process. Look for that alternative way to get money and make money, bidding on contracts, because that's basically what it is. It's an opportunity to bid on big contracts, which brings in larger amounts of capital. So let's move forward. Funding your art. So let's see here. All right, one of the most important things that I tell a lot of people they need to do is be sure you invest in yourself, because other folks are not going to take you seriously if you're not putting your own money into your art. So in other words, you can't walk around hoping and putting up all these little campaigns and stuff, praying for people to donate money to you. You have to invest in yourself first. And I could even show you a breakdown, and I'm going to go a little bit further into this and show you how you could break down where you're investing your own money into your own projects. People will buy into someone who believes in themselves, so you have to believe in yourself first before someone else believes in putting their money into you. That's number one. You this is one thing that drives me crazy. You need to have business cards with you at all times. I can't tell you how many artists have asked me a question and we don't have time to chat, and I ask for their business card so I can give them a call or shoot them an email, and they don't have a business card. That's business walking away. Always, always, always. You're an artist. You should have something really, really creative. And I'm surprised I do not see Anthony's business cards around, but I'll show you something. Second apology. Everything I'm going to be showing you is going to show backwards, so my apologies for that. Because of the way this system is set up, everything is flipped. So even my husband's work in the back in the studio where I'm stationed today, everything is reversed. So don't let your eyes think that they're crazy. But this is an example, sort of, a business card. These are usually what we keep in our booths when we do events. It's a larger scale of a regular size business cards, which are like 2x3 sizes. But always, always have a business card and make sure they're unique and creative. You're an artist. They don't need to just say John Doe artist on the front and that's it, and then your email or your website. Have a unique card, because I can tell you now, if they're not bright and dreamy, they're going to just throw them in the garbage. To them, they'll forget about it and you're forgotten about. So that's business walking away without a business card. All right. Now, this is the way that my husband and I break down when we sell art. So I'm going to give you a range. So write down $1,000. Let's say you sold your work for $1,000. Break it down into 4. You break down your art sale. Home expenses is 1. Personal, which could be entertainment, or essentials. Essentials meaning such as insurance, investments, memberships. Those are always important to have. Memberships into art groups. Third one is project. Fourth one is art expenses and studio, which is different from personal. Personal is the pay yourself mentality. So pay yourself could be, you know what, I want to do something for myself. I want to go to a movie. I want to go out for drinks with friends. So that's your personal. But personal also means being responsible and taking care of yourself. So if you need health insurance, life insurance, things that you know you need for retirement, investments, keep that in mind. That's also under personal. So we break down our sales. So if you have $1,000, $250 goes into your home expenses, meaning like your mortgage or rent, water bill, light bill, those kind of things. Your personal, like I explained to you before, that could be anything from I want to go out to I have insurance I got to pay for. Projects. You have a project coming up that's, really important. That's different from art expenses. Keep that in mind. Project could be, you're paying for the trip for the project. You're paying for the workshop for the project. Your different things that have to do with the specific project, not including materials. So then expenses for your art could be materials, could be almost anything. Studio expenses, like you're paying rent for your studio. That's how you break it down. And I think that's the easiest way. So you do 250, 250, 250, and you know that $1,000 has covered your important areas. I figure $1,000 is doable as far as an understanding. If I said $100, not a whole lot could be done with $100 broken up into 4. So $1,000, yeah. All right. Partner yourself with an organization or a company who is supportive of the arts. That's important. So I have a few examples of companies. Let me see if I can find one in here. Okay, this is a really good example. So, Subculture Group. Subculture Group here in Palm Beach County is a company that they own restaurants and clubs around our community. So and I'll be talking about art patrons because they're also considered a sponsor and a patron as well. They are an example. And they bought an ad, and I apologize again for the backwards. They bought an ad in our event that we do called Continuum. And this particular company buys into a lot of different things in the arts. They pay for murals in our downtown area. They actually sponsored food for Continuum, and they also sponsored a award, which was spread out amongst a student award program that we had set up called the Young Masters of Continuum. So they're a good source of support. There's a lot of them around our community. The only reason I'm not going to call out all these different things because you might be reaching out to me from, let's say, New York. I see a couple of New Yorkers on there, so these names mean nothing to you. But look at some of these in your community. Who really look, you can tell by going into a restaurant. If you see a lot of art on the wall, or if you see in a office building that is a supporter of the arts, you see the motifs, the sculptures, the hangings on the wall, you know that they're a supporter, and you might want to ask, can I speak to the owner? Can I speak to the manager? How can I get involved with you guys? How can we do a partnership? It's always about being observant of what's going on in your community. So, apply to calls to artists that are juried, even if they're public art calls, some paid, some free. Now, I say this because this is known. People who pay for something like a call for $35, they take those more seriously than the ones that are free. Kind of like paying for an event. A lot of times when you pay for something, you want to make sure your money's going towards something important. But when it's free, you kind of take it for granted. So I have no qualms about paying for calls to artists. Where it becomes tricky is when they start becoming large amounts of money, like $350, $400. Those, I would tell you to look and investigate those. Some of them are legitimate, and there are many of them around the country that are, because, you know, they're supported by this program or that program, or their patrons are really about folks spending money to invest in themselves, going back into that. But look into some of those ones that pop out of nowhere and they're charging you like $350 for a table. Different from art fairs or festivals. When they're charging you those large amounts of money, sometimes they don't have your best interest at heart. They have their pocket's interest at heart. We tend to keep our fees low, like affordable, you know, as low as 35 or as high as 65. And sometimes they're free, and they're usually free if it's sponsored by a nonprofit. Usually we will waive fees because we have a sponsorship. So understand that. But a lot of times when there's fairs that people have never done it before and they waive the fee, they're not quite sure. So if it's free, cool, but kind of look at the whole picture to investigate. Develop relationships with your clients and collectors, businesses and nonprofits. That's important because a lot of times you're so grateful to make that one sale. It's like that's it. You never communicate with them again. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know if they're still buying art. Make sure that once you build that relationship in that first sale, the goal is to make them a collector. So again, getting it. Extra money coming in, another means that's different from applying for stuff. But this is something when you're building a relationship, when you get a client, they're going to turn you over to somebody that they trust. Say, look, this artist has amazing art. You need to support them. You need to go and, you know, let's host a show for them. Let's do whatever it is that it's going to take for you to get out there and connect with these people with a reason. That would be a great thing to do. So do it with the nonprofits. Make sure it's something that's reputable, not like Save the Ants. I always use that as an example because they tend to always have the save the fill in the blank. So the Save the Ants organization is not something that you want to get into. But, you know, contact your arts council and see if they are connected with some nonprofits that are not necessarily art-based. Could be something that's something that you have interest in, breast cancer, diabetes, something that they want to partner with an artist. speak to friends, speak to your art advocate in your community, type it on your groups. There are plenty of groups that have art advocates within them that can help you out as well. So let's move on. All right. Host a private event at a home or business. Could be your business. Let's say, for instance, you work for a company. If they have no qualms about conflict of interest, speak to your manager and say, hey, why don't we have like a cute little event? It could be something tied into a charity or tied into something, and I want to bring my art. Like I said, if there's no conflict of interest issues, great opportunity to introduce your peers to the other side of your life. I know a lot of artists who are attorneys, doctors, people in politics, teachers, and they want to get their stuff out there, and they want the support, and they need additional fiscal support, financial support. So, and you don't have to say, look, I'm not making a lot of money here, so let's find another means. That's not what you think of. You think of, how can I get collectors who already know me and trust me in business, who would be glad to support me here? Or you can host in some of your peers' homes if it's a conflict of interest on the premises, or your attorney just doesn't have the space in their office, but they might be able to host a private one in their home. So come up with creative ways of doing something like that. Great opportunity for you to meet new people, develop new clients, maybe acquire patrons or sponsors. Just a great opportunity to have people know who you are and help you build capital for your art, because that is the mission. Ultimately, everything I've been saying is to get capital for it to support your art. Create mini businesses. Okay, so I'll give you an example. My husband and I didn't bring one in here, my husband and I created a mini business within a business. So what is that? We did the Ethnic Mermaids campaign that tied into his mermaid drawings, and I can actually show you one of his drawings. Excuse me. So this is one of the pieces that he decided to sketch. He was teaching a class with a student. Let me put this down. And he was just doodling. So what he did was he did like 40 to 50 of them. And he kept saying, you know what, I'm not drawing. Like, you see these big drawings behind me. He wasn't really producing some of that at that time. He felt like he was in a slump. But he produced like 40 or 50 of these. So I'm like, you need to market those in their own right. So what we did was we came up with a brand and created these as coloring books and t-shirts. And soon enough, he'll be coming up with a women's clothing line using those ethnic mermaids. And it was something that was in demand. So sometimes what you need to do is listen to your community and find out what they feel is missing that you can provide, and build a mini business within your business. So that is a brand that we use that is separate from our ATB brand, but ATB owns the rights to it. Let me give you another example, because I use my husband's work and a lot of stuff, but also my son. So my son, he's a photographer. He's in college now, and he created magnets. Yes, he has these large-scale photography pieces, but not everybody's in the market to buy photography. But magnets are a sure way for people to be able to pick up something really quick. So I got him to build something small with just those magnets, so we sell them on his behalf, and that's like residual income for him. So that's a mini business within the fact that he's a student. So my last one I'm going to show you is this. So this is my cookbook that I came up with, so much more from scratch. And it derived originally from this drawing that my husband created. So this is the fine art, and this is the product. So we have a publishing company under our business. So again, a mini business within the big business. So you are the big business. You as an artist are the big business. So figure out how that works. I want to give you an example. So I know a lot of you guys, if it still doesn't make sense, think about it like this. There was somebody that started the sip and paint idea, right? So, and a lot of you are probably like, oh, that's so played. But someone had to start it, right? The first one was actually created in 2004 in Alabama. Just somebody that decided to host something in their studio and invited people over, I guess, to bring their own wine. And they paid this person to paint up there, and they copied what they were doing. I mean, it was that simple. So since then, right after that, somebody in Miami came up with a concept that franchised not just adults sipping, but actually kids doing it. So from there, it's like this multi-million-dollar business off of this one little simple concept. An artist that thought, hey, I invite people to my studio. They can paint and have a good time. They may not be buying my art right now, but they're having fun. So, and they like to drink. So come up with something unique. If sip and paint is what you do, cool. No, that's what you do. We do something similar with workshops. With my husband's, if you don't know, he does these rooted ground trees with the roots. So we get hired by organizations, municipalities to do mentality workshops and utilizing that tree concept. So come up with something different that's gonna get people excited and, kind of give you that, oh, I know you do these. And, in time, they might be buying a piece of your artwork, but they're supporting you nonetheless. And you're getting capital, you're getting money from that idea. And one thing that I would say, attend workshops and luncheons. So remember I said invest in your business. As an artist, you must. If you have some money lying around, and remember I said you have different things down there, if you broke down your money the way you should have a little bit of capital set aside to maybe go to a luncheon. So that would be an example of a art expense. Going to luncheon is like $75. You go to some of the lectures at the luncheon, go to conferences, those are always good, and you meet people. And one thing I'm going to tell you, you can't always go to something that's affiliated with art. So I made that mistake, and I'll give you a quick example. I had people that would always offer me, we're going back maybe like 10 years, was always offering, oh, you need to come to this business networking luncheon. It's on me. You'll come as my guest. So I would go, and I'd probably be one of 3 artists and probably like 1,000 other people. So real estate people, mortgage companies, financial planners, doctors, attorneys, all kinds of people, but like maybe 1 or 2 artists in the room. And I would leave out of there kind of frustrated, like, they had nothing to talk about for me. I'm the artist in here. Why are they not talking about artists or advertising? And I got really frustrated. It wasn't until I paid for my first luncheon, $75. I had that extra little residual income, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go to this women's networking luncheon. And they had conferences all day. And I came notebook in hand, ready to go, dressed in my best suit. And I learned so much and got so many contacts from that one experience that it made me think. Now when people invite me as a guest, or if I go and sponsor something so I get a ticket, I try to get my best, even if it's one person I connect with. One person's better than nothing. And we're artists. We have to be a little bit more flamboyant than the rest. So sometimes it's about animation. So I talk with my hands. That's my animation. This little streak of hair, that's my animation. And that sometimes gets people intrigued. And then they learn about what I do. And basically I help artists. And I help clients too. Because a lot of times clients don't know how to find the artist. So they come to me. So go to these things. Go to luncheons. Don't be afraid. Don't stay up in your studio. You have to meet people for them to want to even know who you are in order for them to be a patron, be a collector, whatever it is you need to get that money to help your art. You need to get out there and get your face seen. Anthony, my husband, is a prime example. He did not like attending any of those things. And I got to the point where I had to literally push him to start talking to people. Now, I don't even have to worry about him. He could talk one side of the room, I could go to the other side of the room, and we're fine. So it's a matter of artists get out of your cocoon, of your studio or your work area, and get out there so people can see who you are. Dress a little more funky, wear a kooky hat, Wear something, even if it's a formal wear, wear something on you that's going to make you stand out. So they will know, oh, this guy's a little bit unusual. I need to have a conversation with him or her. Real simple. So this is the important part. Where is the money? So I'm going to start with grants because that's what everybody comes to me about. How can I get a grant? How can I get a grant? How can I apply for a grant? Let's be real. Grants are not that accessible the way you think they are. They're just not handing out artist grants. Now, if you're connected to your arts council, oftentimes they do provide opportunities for grants. But grants are usually controlled by either an organization or a government entity that pretty much has to keep track of that money. They're just not like leaving $500 for an artist on the table. You have to work for it. You need to go to your arts council, your cultural council, your government. Those are areas where you will find those funds. So you got to do a little homework. If you are like, I'm not sure, go to Google and do a Google alert. Type in grants for sculptors or something that when you get those alerts, they're going to keep coming. And I got to tell you, I'm on Google alerts. I get them all the time. But you're not going to find that grant sitting around just waiting for you, the artist, to get it because it's not that simple. You got to think about it. If you're in a city, a county, a community of some sort, you're not the only one trying to get that money, and you may not be qualified for some grants. So I'll give you another example. Our cultural council gives out a certain arts grant or cultural grant every other year. They have one for visual artists, and then the following year they'll do one for performing artists. And I don't know the names of these, but if you are interested, go to Palm Beach County Cultural Council's website, and it will have that information. Go to the grant section, and it'll show you. They also have a grant for women that's over 60. And I remember speaking to Rena Blade specifically, Rena from the Cultural Council, who's our executive director there. I sat with her because I was questioning about what's this grant, how come artists just can't get grants? I even went as high as the county, our county is responsible for our cultural council. And she told me about this grant. I think at the time she thought I was a lot older than what I am. She's like, oh, Trina, you might be able to qualify, but you had to be 60 and over. I'm nowhere near that. But it was coming up. I guess there was an estate that was providing funds for women who are professional artists. So ladies, if you live in Palm Beach County and you qualify 60 or over, they have a grant for you at the Cultural Council. But you got to do your homework, folks. It's not going to just be thrown in your lap. You have to search. So this is the area that I tend to talk a lot of people about. I don't tend to encourage this, but some people can afford to do this. So the next one is small interest loans or small interest credit cards. Now, that being said, I'm going to say very carefully, make sure that you do not establish debt from these, all right? Your goal is to establish credit. So make sure that you know that if you go to this level of borrowing, that you know that there's going to be money to cover that at the end. So I say treat all credit cards and all loans how American Express wants you to pay them. Every month in full. All right, if you got to pay a little bit extra, especially on the credit cards, because when you do that, you start acquiring more credit. But if you know you're in a financial rut, I'm not telling you not to. I'm just saying I personally would not encourage you doing this. This is only if you know that this is like last resort. You know that there's this big contract you were approved for this contract, and now you need to get materials for it, and you know within the 30-day, rationale that you're going to get paid enough to cover what you borrowed, then I say do that. Other than that, there are other means, and here's a mean that you might consider. So I told you to go to all these networking sessions, go to meet all these people. There are patrons and sponsors, and there is a difference. So an example of a patron, well, actually, let me read how I wrote it here. Sponsors have an expectation for themselves, and the patron has the expectation for you. The patron is a supporter. Now, this does not mean that neither one of them have your best interest, but patrons tend to have strictly your best interest at heart. They don't necessarily want anything in return, but it would be nice if you give them a gift. But their expectation is not for you to give them something. Whereas the sponsor, they might want, recognition. So advertising, like I showed you in the book. Now, the interesting thing about, so I'm going to show you an example of a patron and a sponsor. All right, so this guy's art here, Anthony Hernandez, who is an artist in our community. He is a muralist. You'll see his work downtown. You'll see his work in other parts of the country. He's originally from Cuba, raised in Chicago, then moved to Miami. Was pretty much raised in Miami, really. He is an artist who also owns a side business. So he started out with Continuum with us. Continuum is an art fair that we do every year with Art Palm Beach. And he believes in this program. He started out with us from the beginning. So he sponsored some things for the show. He sponsored financing for the show. He didn't necessarily want anything for it. So what I did was I gave him an opportunity to have this because the amount of money he paid afforded the back of this book. And those of you who are in advertising know to get the back of a catalog, you have to pay good money. So he paid for that spot. He didn't ask for it. He just did. He's a patron. Why? Because he had no expectation other than the support of an event that supports other artists. Now, I do have sponsors who pay for ads, and their goal is to be seen. So they pay for an ad, and that's what they want. And it helps us, so there's no qualms about it. I have artist friends who have sponsors who pay for their tents, so they want to sign in their booths. Different things like that. So sponsors and patrons are awesome because they're people who can help you finance your profession. They might see, a patron might come into your studio. They're like, you know what? I have no space on my wall right now, but I want to help you out. So they may give you some money for materials, or, they might give you some money and say, you know what, if I had the room, I'd buy that piece, but do me a favor, donate that to a children's organization. So the gift you can give to them, have it be a tax write-off for them. Because they had no expectations on anything, so you can say, well, you know what, since you're paying for that art to go into a children's organization building, I'm going to have it written so you get the tax write-off on it. So that's the way you can give back. If you feel like, I can't just take your money, and they can't take the art. So that's a patron, somebody that really has your best interest at heart, and they have no expectation if you give them anything or not. I love them. Create merchandise. Yeah, that's unique or innovative. So as you see, I'm wearing a shirt here. And actually, a friend of mine actually owns the piece. He's based in New York. But this is a drawing that Anthony did from his Mother Nature series. So again, when I showed you the cookbook, the magnet, and the t-shirt, those are ways of getting, again, residual income. They have sites online, like if you don't want to keep stock in the stuff, like I designed this book, but I don't have to keep it in stock. I designed it on a website and it sells on Amazon. I don't ever have to keep a book here in the house. This particular t-shirt was purchased through a site called Spreadshirt. I like them. Now, this particular style is no longer available, but I like them because, again, I don't have to keep stock. But we do have product where we keep stock, like our coloring books, like our other t-shirts, and like the line that we're coming out with. So come up with merchandise. So if you can invest, remember I said your expenses, so that's an art expense. Put it towards something that you can have products so you can sell at an event. They may not be buying $2,000 paintings, but they can afford a $15, $25 t-shirt, right? or an $18 book or a $7 magnet. They can afford that stuff. So a lot of those little bits of residual income can help you out. And just so you know, the magnets are created at Cafe Press. So those of you who know Cafe Press, they also do t-shirts as well. Again, you don't have to keep it in stock. You can actually set up a site on their website and people buy your merchandise, and then you go from there. And I just lost my, there we go, sorry. So yeah, you don't have to ever keep stock. Not that hard. Do an artist in residency. How many of you said, you know what, I need to get out of my town and I need to meet with other artists and other cultural centers out of my area? Come an artist in residence somewhere. They pay for a lot of times your lodging. They pay for your materials often, and they allow you to create a body of work. And sometimes they even give you an exhibition. So another way of making money. I know a lot of artists, especially if you are single, or even if you're a couple but you don't have any children to worry about, this is a great way for you to travel. They do artists in residency nationally, internationally, even regionally within your state. Like if you're like, I don't want to leave Florida, or I don't want to leave New York, but they might have something. If you're in New York, they might have something in Rochester. You're in Chicago, but you want to stay in Illinois, they might have something in like one of the smaller towns. So look for an artist in residence. That's something I kind of regret, and now that we're empty nesters, my husband and I could consider that because we don't have anything tying us here physically. We have a house, but like our kid can stay here while we're gone. No big deal. So an artist in residence is a great way to meet other artists and get some, some income coming in. So this part I want to talk a lot about because this is something that's new, and I bring up Rena again because she had mentioned one of these type of fundings. She was talking about this for a while. I couldn't put my brain around it even though I had been participating in some of them, and that's called crowdfunding. So one of the crowdfunding areas I will tell you about at the end is something that we are just now starting out. And I found out about this particular group through ArtServe. So crowdfunding, what is that? Basically, you put up a campaign with the concept or an idea and people chime in and support it financially. So sometimes you offer perks to people, perks meaning a product or a service. Sometimes, again, like a patron, they may have no expectations. They just want to give you the money so you can get your project off the ground. La-di-da. So the first one everybody knows, Kickstarter. Kickstarter was something that was created because there were people that were coming with the gadget movement. People were creating these cool ideas, but they needed the funding to be able to actually package them or actually physically make the ideas. So they have a section for artists. But the one thing that's cool about this is that they do fund the product. They help fund the product. And that's important. Keep that in mind because some do not. The only other thing, there's pros to this and there are cons to that. So you can have this great idea, you throw it up there and all these people support it. But the only way for you to get the funds for this, it has to be 100% funded. So if you're 99.5% funded, it is not going to be your money. So you have to make sure that you do everything you can to connect people to your campaign. And I advise you start out with small increments. Do them in, sections. So phase 1, phase 2. I know an artist actually down in Cocoa Beach that did, is Cocoa Beach? In the Miami area, actually, not in Cocoa Beach. And he financed his whole product line through Kickstarter. And he did it in small increments, like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. That's easier to get people to chime in than having a $10,000 campaign and you don't have people that can support that. So break it down in small increments. Okay, GoFundMe, which is a great program. GoFundMe, you don't have to meet your goal to get the funds. So a lot of times you can finance part of your project or part of your art idea. So that's the plus. The setback to that is that you are competing with, because it's so national, it's just as big as Kickstarter, that there's so many other people doing GoFundMe, and a lot of times they're medical based or unfortunately death-based. So a lot of times people kind of pick and choose which seems more important. So you getting your product line is not as important as somebody that's trying to bury their child, if you get what I mean. And some people, they search. You might have your friends supporting you, and that's lovely, but you want to try to get to a national level where people are like, I like this. So you have to be really creative in drawing attention to your GoFundMe. What I encourage for all of them is video. Not great at video. We have video connections, but we just haven't chimed into really getting a grand video on our things. But we've been able to finance 100% one of our GoFundMe campaigns. We did it for the African Diaspora Exhibition, and we had outside funding. So every time someone gave us money toward it outside, I clicked that information in, and it actually gets people excited and they want to support it. So it's a really user-friendly page, I could tell you that, campaign. Now here's the new one. You probably had seen me post online. If you were able to finance an artist and get a tax deduction, would you do it? And got a lot of likes. A few people said yes. So the reason I asked that question goes back to what Rena said was coming out, and there's probably like 3 campaigns, but we checked out one because it was highly backed by, well, mentioned by some of the people at ArtServe. So, and it's called Hatch Fund, AIM, as in aim your, I'm aiming to that goal. And what it is, it's a crowdfunding program, and it's really cool. There is a stipulation. You have to be only supporting you as the artist. So what does that mean? So I broke it down a little bit as I spoke to the gentleman, because I actually did a tutorial yesterday. I'm actually doing one for Anthony as we speak. It has to be the project has to be solely the work, the body of work. So let's say he was trying to support this behind me, and he has a series. It can support the series. It can be with materials, research development, the body of work itself, not product. So what do I mean by not product? Not product. So if he wanted to put that on a t-shirt, I can't put that in the campaign because they won't even let it go through. The other thing that's a must, you must meet your minimum. So they have a minimum amount and a maximum amount. If you meet your minimum, you get the money. If you don't get the money. Now, once you meet the minimum, then there's, perks that go along with that, and then you get to your maximum. So they give you 2 times where you can meet a goal. So like a lot of times once you meet whatever your amount is, if people choose to give you more, then that's cool. But other times people like, oh, you made your $3,000, that's it. But your project might require more than $3,000. It might really need 5,500. So once you meet your minimum, and they have a way to show you how that works, then you go to the next phase. The other side of it is your supporters get a tax write-off, which is key, and why it's huge that people who are artists need to chime into this, because it's a benefit. So like I said, some people may not have an expectation, but one thing that I can tell you that sponsors love and even patrons love is to get a tax deduction. I know I do. When I go to events, a lot of times when I go to those luncheons, sometimes they're tied into a charity, and it's tax deductible. And that's why also I like to go to those luncheons. I like meeting people. I like getting new clients, but I get an opportunity for a tax deduction. I can't hate on that. So yeah, I would, all of those, I would try to chime in as many as you can. But the crowdfunding, especially if you're an artist, I would look into hatchfund.org and check that out, because that, to me, that was something that was created that I'm like, you know what? I can't say that this is not a bad thing, because everybody wins in the end. You have an opportunity to give people perks, but they may not want a perk. They may just want a tax deduction, and they want you to be successful. So you may not have to give them any product. They just will support the campaign for you and want you to be successful as the artist that you are. but you have to believe in yourself first. You have to really plan on being invested in your art, because if you're not invested, like I said, no one else is going to invest in you. So I think that's it. There's a lot of stuff I didn't touch on, but I figured that those were the key components. This can become available to you. If you want me to put that up, I will. But again, I apologize for the glitch. It could have been the weather, because like I said, we have rain out there. We have like a mini storm that's passing by. So I'm going to post this on the ATB page, and I'm going to apologize to the folks who've probably been waiting. I've been talking about it. And then I'm going to reach out to Facebook to find out what was going on. But thank you so much for checking in with me, and hopefully a lot of this helped. I know it was a lot of information, and I'll be doing these periodically, and eventually I'll be turning them into a webinar. So talk to you all soon. Have a good afternoon.